for a deeper look at the riots in Los Angeles and the nationwide protests planned for this weekend. We're joined live by Joshua Philipp, award-winning investigative reporter with the Epoch Times and host of the show Crossroads. Joshua, great to have you back with us. You were in Los Angeles while these protests were erupting. You were watching cars burning and all of the scenes that we've been seeing. You were right there. Tell us about your experience on the ground.
Yeah, so a few nights now it's been going on. I was just there this afternoon, actually. Okay, so first night I was there, police had a large area cordoned off that was mostly around the federal building and the court building. They had it so you couldn't go within certain areas. If you went there, you could be arrested. In this video you can see here, that's my video actually, you can see there's a vehicle on fire. What was happening was outside the main area where the protests were taking place, there were individuals traveling around. I saw them acting in a coordinated fashion, and they were lighting vehicles on fire. That was one of several that same night. And I mean, it's just been going on. This afternoon, I was there between like 11 and about 1 p.m., and it was much smaller this afternoon. It could be because of the weather. It's a bit hotter today. Maybe they'll come out tonight. We'll have to see. But it does seem law enforcement's much stronger. I also saw a much stronger National Guard presence.
Joshua, you've done very thorough investigations of different groups throughout the country. Nationwide, we're seeing these protests are being now planned in all 50 states. Tell us more about sort of this, I guess it's called the 50-51 movement. And where is everybody getting their funding? We're seeing pallets dropped off of different materials and masks. And what do you think these protesters ultimately want to achieve, or should we call them rioters?
There are a lot of different groups. So the 50-51 protests coming up on Saturday, they're doing this specifically for Trump's birthday and also for the anniversary of the U.S. Army. Not the 5150, but 50-51 protests this weekend. They have about 190 groups listed publicly as being part of this. And they're not all, I mean, depending on how you view them, there are some that are more legitimate than others. You have groups like the ACLU, for example, among the groups with it. You have Greenpeace, for example. You also have some very far left ones, and it's a mix of them. Some of the other protests across the United States, one of the big ones that took place, you did have Andy Ngo, editor with the Post-Millennial, post publicly, I believe it was in San Francisco, the protest there, that Antifa International had publicly stated they were going to be holding protests. Many arrests were reported by police there, so that was broken up. Another protest happening across the United States right now, you have the Party of Liberation and Socialism. They do tend to be one of the more umbrella organizations that tends to be involved in a lot of the more violent protests across the United States. In terms of funding, it's all over the place. The protests coming up this weekend, again, you have 190 organizations. And that's just the ones they're publicly listing. Some of them have government funding. Some of them have corporate funding. A lot of them have just normal grassroots funding. And so it's all over the place.
Joshua, the president today in the Oval Office earlier, taking questions, defending his move to sort of preemptively send these troops and National Guard folks into Los Angeles, taking credit for the fact that the city is not burning because of that move, as we saw in, say, Minneapolis and other places where things got out of control and the authorities weren't called in and the National Guard weren't called in timely enough. Can President Trump call in the National Guard in other states as well, where you're talking about these are popping up? And what do you think the implications might be?
Yeah, so President Donald Trump came out today. His statement was interesting. He said, "I've been here before." In other words, he was saying he has already experienced this. He said he waited previously on governors to deploy the National Guard. They have not done it. In many instances, they've allowed these cities to burn. We saw this in many cases. That is an accurate statement. We have watched cities burn in the United States, and even when they're burning, you still have the same narrative. Oh, it's mostly peaceful. Well, if it's mostly peaceful and people are murdering people, people are burning buildings down, people are looting, What constitutes not peaceful, I'd have to ask. But in terms of Trump deploying the National Guard in California, there is a legal debate with that. So a federal judge has overturned Gavin Newsom calling for the National Guard to be removed. We'll see where this goes in terms of the court case. But a president can bypass a governor to deploy the Guard if the state is not enforcing federal law. And the argument from the Trump side is that because they've been blocking ICE, or they've been allowing protesters to block the operations of ICE, not arresting them when they're interfering or blocking government agents, not arresting them when even they seem to be carrying out acts of assault on police or not going very strongly against it. That is the argument. And so sanctuary city laws, that's going to be the focus of a lot of legal arguments.
Joshua, we're seeing a flurry of high-profile Democrats coming out against the riots. No, not against President Trump, but against the riots. Democratic Senator John Fetterman calling the riots, quote, anarchy and true chaos, saying Democrats actually lose the moral high ground if they refuse to condemn acts like arson and assaults on law enforcement, which you witnessed firsthand. How should Democratic leaders be navigating this?
Well, that's a big challenge they have now, because we're in because of the internet, and some would argue very much because of X and also the rise of independent media. For the most part, Americans have seen videos, footage, images, photographs, whether you're on TikTok, no matter where you are. Everybody by now, I assume, has seen some of the violence. And so for politicians to come out and say that there's not violence or there's not much violence, I do personally wonder how many people would agree with that. I've also seen a lot of people saying that it does make them look bad. There were people saying, I saw a lot of anti-ICE protesters saying, for example, that they even believe that some of this is staged, that there are people maybe handing out Mexican flags to make them look bad. And so even people who totally do not support Trump, even people who totally do not support what's going on, a lot of them have said that, the Mexican flags waving while they're committing acts of arson or violence or whatever else, it's bad optics. It makes their movement look bad. I know Senator John Fetterman has come out and condemned the violence, condemned what's going on not again, as you mentioned, not defending Trump, but saying that there has to be a line you draw. I do think that's more of a moderate stance. And I think actually that's probably a stance that would resonate with more people.
Yeah, I mean, there's some reports, Democrats very concerned that this is not going to make for a good campaign ad come midterms with all of this, carnage all over the place. What is happening with
Republicans
ICE
Republicans are already using it. They're already using it for their ads. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just devastating what's happening to Los Angeles right now and the people there. What is happening with ICE during all of this? Are they still operating normally amid the unrest? Are their resources tapped, or are they still operating?
ICE is still operating. They're operating currently in Los Angeles as we speak. In fact, they're still carrying out ICE raids. And today, Donald Trump actually came out and said that the model that he has now used in Los Angeles, this is the model for the whole nation. What's actually interesting is that Governor Gavin Newsom he suggested that him trying to block Trump was for that reason. He was saying for governors across the United States, if he does not block Trump from deploying the National Guard or doing whatever else to, override the sanctuary city policies to an extent or carry out deportations, he was saying this is going to become the national model. Sure enough, Donald Trump is saying, yes, this is the national model. It worked in LA. It's going to work elsewhere. And they are now saying they're going to be expanding. In fact, official statements from several agencies and from Trump, they are now going to be expanding the ICE raids to every major U.S. city.
Joshua, Philipp, thank you for joining us and sharing your insights.
Anytime. Thank you.